You are invited to participate in our transportation planning process, regardless of your race, color, national origin, including limited English proficiency, religion, creed, gender, ancestry, ethnicity, disability, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, veteran status, or background. Read the full notice of your rights and protections at www.boston.org/MPO_NON_DISCRIMINATION. This meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Zoom products are compliant with exceptions with the following standards: Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1 Level AA standards and revised Section 508 standards. If you require any additional accommodations in order to participate fully in this meeting, or if you have any technical difficulties, please contact Ibu Kurashi of the MPO staff at iquraishi@ctps.org or 857-702-3695 or via the chat box. All participants will join the meeting with muted microphones. Please rename yourself to include your first name, last name, and affiliation. After roll call, board members may mute and unmute themselves. Always remain muted unless actively speaking. To participate in the discussion, please select the raise hand function. Find this by clicking either on the participants button at the bottom of the screen, and a window will pop up with a raise hand button at the bottom, or the reactions button in the toolbar. The chair will then call on participants. Please raise your hand via Zoom if you would like to use an AI note taker during this meeting. If you're on the phone, you can use *9 to raise your hand. Please call the roll, Dave.
Will do, Mr. Chair. I'll start with MassDOT Seat 1.
This is David Muller. I represent Secretary Philip Ng here.
Morning. MassDOT Seat 2.
Good morning, John Bishad, representing Highway Administrator Jonathan Gulliver, present.
Good morning and welcome. MassDOT Highway Division.
John Romano, Mass DOT Highway Division here.
Hello. MBTA.
Good morning, Sandy Johnston here representing the MBTA.
Morning. The Regional Transportation Authority's Metro West Transit Authority.
Good morning. This is Tyler Tarasi representing the Administrator Jim Nee for the MWRTA. Present.
Good morning. Next is Massport. I'm just going to do a quick check on my end. I do not see Sarah as of yet. We'll move to MAPC.
Good morning, Eric Barassa with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council.
Good morning. MBTA Advisory Board.
Good morning, Hannah Swolikowski, MBTA Advisory Board.
Morning. Next is the Advisory Council.
Good morning, Caitlin Allen Conley here.
Welcome.
Advisory Council.
City of Boston, Seat 1.
Morning, Jen Rowe representing Mayor Michelle Wu in the City of Boston.
Hello. City of Boston, Seat 2.
Good morning, this is Matt Moran, also representing the City of Boston and Mayor Wu.
Hello, Matt. Just going to note that. Next we have at-large City of Everett.
Good morning, Jay Monty representing Mayor Van Campen in the City of Everett.
Morning. At-large City of Newton.
Good morning, David Kozis representing our new mayor, Mark Laredo, and the City of Newton.
Good morning. At-large Town of Arlington.
Leonard Diggins representing Select Board Chair Diane Mahan.
Welcome. At-large Town of Brookline.
Good morning, Erin Chute representing Select Board Chair Bernard Green for the Town of Brookline.
Morning. Intercore Committee, City of Somerville.
Good morning, Tom Bent, City of Somerville representing our new mayor Jake Wilson and the Intercore Committee.
Good morning. Minuteman Advisory Group on Interlocal Coordination, Town of Lexington.
Roach representing Select Board Chair Jill Hay for the Magic Subregion.
Hello. Metro West Regional Collaborative, City of Framingham.
Dennis Giambetti representing Metro West and Mayor Charles Ziski of Framingham.
Hello. North Shore Task Force, City of Beverly. Do not see Darlene at the moment. We'll move on to North Suburban Planning Council, Town of Burlington.
Good morning. This is John Strauss representing the town of Burlington, Mike Espayo, Select Board Chairman, and the North Suburban Planning Council.
Good morning. South Shore Coalition Town of Hull.
GRA representing Hull Select Board Chair Erwin Nesshoff.
Fantastic. Good morning. Southwest Advisory Planning Committee Town of Rentham. Next, Three Rivers Interlocal Council Town of Norwood.
Good morning, Tom O'Rourke from the town of Norwood representing the Trick sub-region.
Good morning. We'll go to our ex officio members, the Federal Highway Administration. Do not see Anthony at the moment. Let's go back up. Have I missed anyone on the roll call that would want to be acknowledged at this time? I'll pause for a moment. If not, that calls the roll, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dave. Next item on the agenda is the chair's report. I would just like to note for the record that we had on our published agenda long-range transportation plan amendment. We've removed that from today's agenda. We will take it up in February. Next on the agenda is Tegan Tyke, Executive Director's Report.
Thanks, David. Hi, everyone. Tegan Tyke, the Executive Director of the staff to the Boston Region MPO. Next slide, please. For today's updates, I'll just provide you with a few engagement and funding updates, and then briefly recap today's agenda and highlight our next meeting date. So next slide, please. So 2 items under engagement that we thought worth mentioning this week. Just on Tuesday, 2 days ago, we held an information session on the types of technical assistance that the MPO can provide to project proponents. And that includes work in the space of planning, design, and data analysis. The technical assistance that we provide is really critical to us because it helps us support advancing projects through concept and early stages of design so that they can become construction projects, particularly when proponents have limited resources to do that themselves. So we have been hearing a lot from municipalities, both up to and after that event on Tuesday. And I just wanted to highlight that if anybody here is interested and was not able to attend or is just further interested in the technical assistance work that we can provide, please contact Jen Emiko Kunkanen at jkunkanen@ctps.org. Someone should be popping the email link into the chat as well, although it is on the slide. Or you can visit our technical assistance page on the MPO website. And then the next slide, please. So we also, in terms of engagement, this week we have been holding what we've been calling the Sub-Regional Readiness Days. And those are a relatively newly established annual practice. And what they are forums for TIP project proponents to share project updates with MPO staff before the typical TIP readiness days in February. So on Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons of this week, we had virtual forums for proponents from in the Inner Core, MAGIC, which is the Minuteman Advisory Group on Interlocal Coordination, the North Suburban Planning Council, and the North Shore Task Force. And we had the forum for proponents there to talk about each of their projects. And then this afternoon at 1 p.m. will be the final workshop, and this one will be for Metro West, the South Shore Coalition, SWAP, the Southwest Advisory Planning Committee, and TRIC, Three Rivers Interlocal Council. So if you have projects in those subregions, please do consider attending and providing updates at that meeting this afternoon. We're going to be sharing the findings of all of these meetings with MassDOT staff, and then we'll also share those updates to the MPO board during likely a February meeting. Next slide, please. Now, great news in the funding space. It was recently announced that the MPO, the Boston Region MPO, has been awarded a 3rd Safe Streets and Roads for All federal grant for a project that we are calling Safety Forward. We were awarded the full amount that we requested of $5 million, which brings the total project amount to $6.25 million when the 20% match from MassDOT is added to those federal funds. The project builds on the Vision Zero action plan that we've been developing and sharing with this board over the past 2 years as part of our first SS4A grant. And it will complement our second SS4A grant, which is focused on demonstration projects. What the Safety Forward project will do is advance 4 key initiatives, developing an innovative framework to better understand perceived safety for people walking and biking, applying the IRAP star safety star ratings, which is a different way of helping to prioritize our corridor improvements. We'll also be investing in tools and programs and interactive education opportunities focused on creating safer environments around schools. And finally, building on our second SS Ferry grant, we'll continue to provide subawards to municipalities for demonstration projects. So we're really excited. This third and most recent grant positions us well to continue to advance our safety work in the region. Our next immediate step is to work with the HWA to finalize the grant agreement, and we'll provide some updates once the project's underway. But in the meantime, if you're interested in talking more, or you have any immediate questions, please reach out to Rebecca Morgan, which is rmorgan@ctps.org. All right, next slide. Okay, so as the chair already announced, we had a small change to our agenda, but what we do have remaining on our agenda other than regular business is a work scope. So 2 work scopes for work that we plan to do in federal fiscal year 2026. These were identified as discrete studies in the Unified Planning Work Program, or UPWP. The first is a continuation of our research on roadway pricing. In this case, this year, focusing on how stakeholders perceive the benefits of challenges of roadway pricing strategies, and also how other agencies have utilized messaging to be able to address those concerns and build that sort of greater understanding of what roadway pricing strategies can do. And the second scope around representing the experiences of people with limited mobility. It's going to focus on making recommendations and identifying strategies to better represent the experiences with people with limited mobility in quantitative analyses done by our planners and analysts here at the MPO. And then we will have an action item for Amendment 2 to the 26 to 30 tip, and Ethan will talk about this amendment, but it is a vote to approve it after or not after public comment. Next slide, please. So the next meeting, we do plan to have right now 2 meetings in February. The next one is scheduled for February 5th. And we have a number of tentative items on our agenda right now. So I will wait until we have those a little bit more finalized before we share those with the board. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, Tegan. Any questions for Tegan? Seeing and hearing none. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Are there any public comments at this time? Seeing and hearing none. If you have a comment during this meeting, please raise your hand and we will call on you. Next item on the agenda is committee chairs reports. Are there any? Caitlin Allen Connolly.
Hi, thank you so much. I just wanted to give a quick update on the Community Advisory Council. So thank you so much. Since the last board meeting, our council has met once. The meeting included members sharing updates about recent work, and we heard from Livable Streets, the City of Chelsea, and the Mystic Valley Elder Services. Honestly, I was impressed by the breadth of their work and the truly positive impact it has or will have on their constituents and communities. And in addition to that, we heard from MPO staff that shared information about both the Boston Region MPO's freight and also active transportation programs and work planning for federal fiscal years 2026 and 2027, which also was followed by a robust engagement with our members. So thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Any questions for Caitlin? Seeing none, we will now go to Jen Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to share that the next TIP Process Engagement and Readiness Committee meeting is this coming Thursday, January 22nd, 2 p.m. At that meeting, MPO staff are going to be sharing a new and improved TIP project dashboard that they've been hard at work on for some time. We've gotten a little preview of it. It's going to be really helpful as we look to understand and navigate the TIP universe and the program of projects going forward. And at the meeting, staff are looking for feedback from committee members, and eventually they'll be we'll be rolling this out to a broader audience as we continue to make use of this resource. So the other main agenda item will be a staff summary on findings from the TIP subregional readiness days that Tegan referenced earlier. That besides presenting these findings to MassDOT during their own readiness exercises, will also members of the committee will have an opportunity to understand some of the major findings, and I'd like to use the opportunity to thank staff, thank MassDOT, and MPO members for really engaging in these readiness days. This was a kind of innovation that came out of the committee a couple years ago, and I was able to attend the Intercore committee meeting, and the number of project proponents who was there has grown substantially, and so this is going to be a really useful exercise for us, and really appreciate everyone's effort in making the time to share information. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Jen. Any questions for Jen? Seeing none, Sam Taylor.
Yes, thank you. Sam Taylor here reporting out for the UPWP committee. A couple of things. One, just wanted to highlight that we heard great presentations at the January 8th meeting from Lauren McGee on the Transportation Impact Mitigation Program, as well as from Eric Barassa and Travis Pollock of MAPC on some recent transportation work performed by MAPC. And I also wanted to highlight that at the next meeting, January 29th, will be a hybrid meeting. So there will be an in-person option at 10 Park Plaza, which is at 1 o'clock as usual. And there, the main agenda item during that meeting will be a discussion on discrete study proposals for the upcoming federal fiscal year 2027. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Any questions for Sam? Seeing none. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of December 11th, 2025. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the minutes? And please state your name for the record when making the motion. Eric Barassa.
Eric Barassa, I'll make a motion to approve the December 11th meeting minutes.
Jen Rowe.
Mr. Chair, I had sent in a very minor change to the list of City of Boston attendees, but otherwise, with that small editorial change, I would second this motion.
Thank you, Jen. Any other comments, questions, suggestions besides the one Jen just made? Seeing none, with that change, can I get a roll call, please?
Certainly.
David?
And pardon me. Starting with MassDOT seat 1.
Yes.
Sorry about my delay.
No worries.
MassDOT, John Bouchard.
John Bouchard, yes.
John Romano.
John Romano, yes.
Sandy Johnston.
Sandy Johnston, yes.
Tyler Terrassi.
Tyler Terrassi, yes.
Eric Barassa.
Eric Barassa, yes.
Hannah Switlikowski.
Hannah Swillikowski, yes.
Caitlin Allen Connolly.
Caitlin Allen Conley, yes.
Jen Rowe.
Jen Rowe, yes.
Matt Moran.
Matt Moran, yes.
Jay Monty.
Jay Monty, yes.
David Kozis.
David Kosis, yes.
Len Diggins.
Diggins, yes.
Aaron Shute.
Aaron Shute, yes.
Tom Bent.
Tom Bent, yes.
Megan Roach.
Megan Roach, yes.
Dennis Giambetti.
Dennis Giambetti, yes.
Darlene Wynn.
Darlene Wynn, yes.
John Strauss.
John Strauss, yes.
Chris Diorio.
Chris Diorio, yes.
And Tom O'Rourke.
Tom O'Rourke, yes.
Thank you. And that calls the motion carries, and that calls the roll, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a work scope on roadway pricing. Abby Katrumbas Harima, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. I'm Abby Katrumbas-Hirma. I'm a transportation policy analyst here at the MPO, and I'll be briefly discussing the work scope for the FFY 2026 UPWP study, which is titled Understanding Stakeholder Perceptions of Roadway Pricing and Conceptualizing Effective Communication Strategies. The funds allocated for the study are $49,417, composed entirely of staff time and work will take place from the time of scope approval to the end of the federal fiscal year. This study will build off of previous MPO work on roadway pricing. In FFY 2023, the MPO examined 5 case studies of roadway pricing across the nation and examined the implementation process, the effects on congestion, and the revenue produced by the pricing strategies. In FFY 2025, that work shifted to assessing and understanding the tools that can be used to model hypothetical pricing scenarios, and then testing those tools on a hypothetical cordon pricing scenario. And that's the study that the board just had a presentation on last month. In the FFY 2026 study, we'll be focusing primarily on stakeholder perceptions and concerns, their level of influence and their level of interest, as well as examining how implementing agencies have engaged stakeholders and laying out the most effective engagement and messaging techniques. This study will create a framework for conducting stakeholder analysis and creating engagement and messaging plans that can be applied to the Boston region in the future. It won't be limited to a specific roadway pricing scenario so that the study is able to be broadly applicable, because the goal is that if and when a specific roadway pricing scenario is discussed for the Boston region, agencies won't be starting from ground zero, but will have resources previously created by the MPO. The first half of the study will mainly consist of information gathering. Staff will review public materials such as news reports, public hearings, and outreach materials to understand how different groups of stakeholders perceive the challenges and benefits of roadway pricing strategies. For example, staff can look at news reports in London or New York City to understand the attitude and influence of stakeholder groups. And to place the work within a more Massachusetts context, staff can examine public materials like the Governor's Transportation Finance Task Force report, which was released in early 2025, and the Boston City Council's public hearing on congestion pricing that took place in July 2024, just to name a couple specific sources. Staff will also conduct interviews with agencies that have implemented roadway pricing, such as New York City, or agencies that have initiated the process of implementing roadway pricing. So agencies that have started the process or desire to implement roadway pricing, but have not yet been able to do so. And these interviews will provide information about how the agencies assess and engage with stakeholder concerns and what communication and messaging methods they've found most effective. The second part of the study is really focused on coalescing all of this information into a usable toolkit for future agencies to conduct stakeholder analyses and create engagement and messaging plans. Using the information gathered from public sources and interviews, staff will map stakeholder relationships, document common concerns and attitudes, and assess the level of influence stakeholders might have on a roadway pricing strategy's implementation. Staff will also create an engagement and messaging framework that incorporates lessons learned from other agencies and which agencies in the Boston region could then tailor to fit their own engagement and messaging strategies. Again, to summarize, the overarching goal of the toolkit framework is not to conduct a stakeholder analysis that's limited to one scenario in one geographic area, but to lay the groundwork for future implementing agencies in the Boston area to conduct their own analyses and create their own messaging strategies. As with our other roadway pricing studies, this study is designed to do some of the basic background work so that if and when the time comes for the Boston region to discuss roadway pricing seriously, agencies aren't starting from scratch. Instead, there will be relevant materials created by the MPO that now provide information on the effects of roadway pricing on congestion and revenue, on modeling tools for roadway pricing scenarios specific to the Boston region, and with this FFY 2026 study, stakeholder engagement and messaging strategies. And so we ask today that the board votes to approve this work scope. And I believe I am just about at time, but of course, if there are any questions or feedback from the board, I will do my best to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. And I believe Caitlin Allen Connolly has a question.
Yes, thank you so much, Abby, for presenting the scope of work. I just wanted to signal that I believe there's really general support for continued exploration in this area, particularly through forward-looking technical analysis. I believe deepening our understanding of how the methodologies presented in the December 2025 study impact both congestion and revenue will be critical. And I just wanted to confirm if there are plans to advance the study for a study on roadway pricing initiatives in federal fiscal year 27. I think there's really significant value in building upon the existing studies to help inform the increasingly vital conversations surrounding transportation funding and sustainable revenue sources. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think especially given, again, like the repeated asks and the repeated interest from the board for us to investigate roadway pricing in more specific ways and its potential impact on the region, that's definitely under consideration. I'm not sure if Tegan or Annette, if either of you want to jump in and add specificity.
Tegan's got her hand up. Go ahead, Tegan.
No specificity yet, but Caitlin, thank you so much for that input. And what we will be doing is developing a proposal for what that next step of work could look like as part of the UPWP development, which is ongoing right now. So Rebecca, she briefly raised her hand. I don't know if she wants to say more, but she is working with her team to kind of figure out the best next step that we think we can do to advance this body of work and the tools that we would need to better explore these questions.
Rebecca?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Tegan. Yes, to answer the question, as Tegan mentioned, we are considering the next step from that technical analysis and are planning to put forward another discrete study idea for the UPWP committee to consider for FY27 that would advance that work, looking at some iterative analysis, which was one of the main recommendations from that previous study. So that is forthcoming. Will be coming to the board soon.
Thank you. But in the meantime, any other questions on this one? Because we need to get this approved. Any questions on this work scope? Seeing none, can I get a motion and a second to approve this work scope as presented today? And please state your name for the record when making the motion. Eric Barassa.
Eric Barassa, I'll make a motion to approve the work scope as presented today.
Jen Rowe.
General, I'll second that motion and just a quick note of appreciation for MPO staff for really building up the expertise in policy and stakeholder engagement to be able to tackle something like this at the same level of rigor we've come to expect from the more quantitative assessment that we heard or presented last month.
Thanks, Jen. Lynn, do you have a question, or are you just going to make a motion and somebody else did it for you?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. It was just a hand up to make the motion and the
Thank you,
second.
Lynn.
So thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Please call the roll.
Certainly, David Moeller.
Yes.
John Bouchard.
John Bouchard, yes.
John Romano.
John Romano, yes.
Sandy Johnston.
Sandy Johnston, yes, and echoing all of Jen's comments before.
Tyler Terrassi.
Tyler Terrassi, yes.
Eric Barassa.
Eric Barassa, yes.
Hannah Switlikowski.
Hannah Swilakowski, yes.
Caitlin Allen Connolly.
Caitlin Allen Conley, yes.
Jen Rowe.
Jen Rowe, yes.
Matt Moran.
Matt Moran, yes.
Jay Monty.
Jay Monty, yes.
David Kozis.
David Kosis, yes.
Len Diggins.
Diggins, yes.
Aaron Shute.
Shoot, yes.
Tom Bett.
Tom Benton, yes.
Megan Roach.
Megan Roach, yes.
Dennis Giambetti.
Dennis Giambetti, yes, sorry.
Not a problem, and thank you. Darlene Nguyen.
Darlene Nguyen, yes.
John Strauss.
John Strauss, yes.
Christy Ario.
Christy Orio, yes.
Tom O'Rourke.
Tom O'Rourke, yes.
Anyone on the vote that I have not called? Not. Motion carries, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next item is a work scope on limited mobility, representing experiences of people with limited mobility. Sophie Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sophie Fox, and I'm a data analyst with the Boston Region MPO. Today, I will be presenting the work scope for the 2026 UPWP discrete study titled Representing the Experiences of People with Limited Mobility. This study has a budget of $50,000 and will last for about 8 months after work commences. As part of our planning and decision-making processes, the MPO often develops mobility metrics to understand how people travel throughout the region. While past and ongoing work have helped us get a better understanding of the experiences and challenges of people with limited mobility, we don't yet understand how to best reflect this knowledge in our quantitative analysis. For example, when calculating accessibility, we may measure how many destinations an individual can access within a 15-minute walk. However, we are currently unable to model how this metric might change if that individual has mobility limitations. The goal of the study is to develop strategies to incorporate these experiences into quantitative analyses done by Boston Region MPO staff, which will both strengthen our data-driven decision-making capabilities as well as support more inclusive transportation planning. So this study will have two objectives. The first will be to gain a better understanding of both the experiences of those with limited mobility as they travel throughout the Boston region, as well as existing efforts to represent these experiences and perspectives in quantitative analysis. The second objective is to identify ways future data-driven transportation planning work can more accurately model the travel conditions and behavior of people with limited mobility. So the first task of the study will be to conduct a literature review to identify existing best practices, analysis approaches, and strategies to include the needs of people with mobility limitations in our data-driven transportation planning efforts. The focus of this research will mainly be on data availability, as well as analysis techniques and tools that could potentially be embedded into our work. The second task will be stakeholder engagement, in which MPO staff will work with advocacy organizations and individuals with limited mobility themselves to learn more about the different types of mobility impairments that people experience, as well as challenging aspects of the transportation system that we could potentially model with our analyses. With the information gathered in these first two tasks, the MPO staff will conduct internal strategy discussions that will include staff who use, maintain, and analyze data, as well as those who have more specialized knowledge about transportation safety and equity, with the goal of developing recommendations to incorporate the perspectives of individuals with limited mobility in data-driven planning at a regional scale. Our results will then be summarized in a technical memo that will also identify best practices and potential next steps to better represent the experiences of people with limited mobility in future quantitative analysis. We request your approval of this work program, and we're happy to take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. Questions for Sophie? Seeing and hearing none, can I get a motion and a second to approve this work scope as presented today? Please state your name for the record when making a motion. Sandy Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will make a motion, Sandy Johnson, to approve this work scope as presented today.
Thank you. Matt Moran.
I would second that motion, Mr. Chair, and also just add thank you, Sophie and Rose, for preparing this work scope. Really appreciate it, and we know it's very important work.
Thank you, Matt. Motion has been made and seconded. Please call the roll.
Certainly. David Muller.
Yes.
John Bouchard.
John Bouchard, yes.
John Romano.
John Romano, yes.
Sandy Johnston.
Sandy Johnston, yes.
Tyler Terrassi.
Tyler Terrassi, yes.
Eric Barassa.
Eric Barassa, yes.
Hannah Switlikowski.
Hannah Swilakowski, yes.
Caitlin Allen Connolly.
Caitlin Allen Conley, yes. And also I'd like to echo what Matt said. Thank you so much. It's a really important topic. So I'm grateful that you're focusing in on this. Thank you.
Jen Rowe.
Jen Rowe, yes.
Matt Moran.
Matt Moran, yes.
Jay Monty.
Jay Monty, yes.
David Kozis.
David Kosas, yes.
Len Biggins.
Biggins, yes.
Aaron Shute.
Shoot, yes.
Tom Bent.
Tom Bent, yes.
Megan Roach.
Megan Roach, yes.
Dennis Giambetti.
Dennis Giambetti, yes.
Darlene Wynn.
Darlene Wynn, yes.
John Strauss.
John Strauss, yes.
Chris Diorio.
Chris Diorio, yes.
And Tom O'Rourke.
Tom O'Rourke, yes.
Motion carries, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the FY 26 to 30 Transportation Improvement Program Tip Amendment number 2. Ethan Lapointe.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. My name is Ethan Lapointe. I am a Senior Transportation Planner on MPO staff. This presentation, if we can go on to the next slide, please, is going to just quickly re-summarize some of the contents that were an amendment to the federal fiscal year's 2026 to 30 TIP, culminating in a request from this board to vote to endorse Amendment 2 now that it has completed its 21-day comment period. So just quickly summarizing what was in this, is there were a fair few line items here. Amendment 2 included funding for 5 different earmarks or community project funds within the federal fiscal year 2026 earmark discretionary program. It also included a funding source change for the design of improvements at the intersection of Route 126, 135, MBTA, and CSX freight rail tracks in Framingham. Worth noting here that this was to change the funding source from a design improvement towards one better aligned with the project scope as a planning improvement. Delays to 9 statewide highway program projects as part of an exercise to evaluate the best fit programming years for these projects in advance of TIP Readiness Days next month, and also some additional changes across MBTA projects and programs for a variety of federal sources, including not just formula programs, but also federal discretionary grants as well. If we can go on to the next slide, because this was a TIP amendment, this had a 21-day comment period, which began December 22nd and concluded January 12th, 2026. During this time, staff received 2 comments, only one of which was related to projects within the amendment. That one was a request for additional investment in wayfinding signage, route maps, schedules, and other safety improvements along the 714 bus route in Hull. It is worth noting that that is an investment being advanced already through MPO regional target funding in federal fiscal year 2026, which was being flexed over to the MBTA for execution. We also directed this commenter towards the MBTA if they had any further questions. The second was a request for additional consideration and review by MassDOT in the design of improvements for any roadway or intersection projects near cannabis dispensaries, which we then relayed accordingly. So with that, if we can go on to the next slide. And next one, please. Staff are requesting that the board votes to endorse Amendment 2.
Thank you, Ethan. Any questions for Ethan? Seeing none, can I get a motion in a second to approve the amendment as presented today? Eric Barassa.
Eric Barassa, I'll make a motion to approve the amendment as presented today.
Thank you. Tom Bent.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Please call the roll.
David Muller,
Yes.
John Bouchard,
John Bouchard, yes.
John Romano,
John Romano, yes.
Sandy Johnston,
Sandy Johnston, yes.
Tyler Terasi,
Tyler Terasi, yes.
Eric Barassa,
Eric Barassa, yes.
Hannah Switlikowski,
Hannah Swilikowski, yes.
Caitlin Allen Connolly,
Caitlin Allen Conley, yes.
Jen Rowe,
Jen Rowe, yes.
Matt Moran,
Matt Moran, yes.
Jay Monty,
Jay Monty, yes.
David Kozis,
David Kosis, yes.
Len Diggins,
Diggins, yes.
Aaron Shute,
Aaron Shute, yes.
Tom Bent,
Tom Benton, yes.
Megan Roach,
Megan Roach, yes.
Dennis Giambetti,
Dennis Ciambetti, yes.
Darlene Wynn,
Darlene Wynn, yes.
John Strauss,
John Strauss, yes.
Chris Diorio,
Chris Diorio, yes.
and Tom O'Rourke.
Tom O'Rourke, yes.
Motion carries, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is member items. Are there any items come before the MPO today that were not previously spoken about? Seeing and hearing none, can I get a motion and a second to adjourn? And please state your name for the record when making the motion. Eric Barassa.
Eric Barassa, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Lynn Diggins.
Diggins of Arlington, seconds that motion.
Any objections? Seeing and hearing none, without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody.